Welcome to Rick Rack Ruby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will be making this mini charm square panel angel. She's fun and easy, so let's get started. To make the mini charm square angel, we'll start with mini charm squares. I'm using the Jolly Good collection by BASICGREY for Moda. There are actually only 3 mini charm squares in this project, and then we also have 3 regular charm squares. Mini charm squares are 2.5 inches and regular charm squares are 5 inches. So this will be the center of the dress, and then these will be the sides and the back of the dress, and this one will be for the wings. I look for a strong contrast between this center panel and the side fabrics. You can see this is considerably taller than this, so I'm going to go ahead and remove 1/2 inch. I'm just gonna line this up, let's see, and then draw a line and cut off 1/2 inch from the bottom square and the center square. The top one will be trimmed after we have this all pieced together. There are probably hundreds of combinations of, you know, small mini charm squares and regular charm squares in any collection that will work for this design. It's really a lot of fun. So now I'm going to piece together this center panel, just 1, 2, 3. And I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I have off-white thread. I'm kind of a little bit skeptical about there being such a difference between the white background here and the red here. I'm kind of having second thoughts, so I might check quickly to see if I have something else that'll work from the bottom. I actually think this one might be better, so I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, look at that. The 1/2 inch is just above this little line in the plaid, so I'll trim that, and then this one will be for the bottom. Okay, now I'll piece these. 1/4 inch seam allowance, then I'm gonna press my seam allowances. Here we go, these 3 mini charm squares are sewn together, and now I'm gonna match up the bottom edge. I told you there will be a little bit extra here, but I'm gonna trim that later. And then I need to determine, you know, sometimes if there's a stocking right there in the print and it winds up in the front, then it's upside down. So let's see how we can do this. This is better over here because now this one is right side up. And this one's better over here because this one's right side up. That looks good. And they're not the same stocking, so that's also good. All right, so I'm gonna stitch this one to this side and this one to this side. It looks like this, and now I'm going to trim this edge and press those seam allowances to the blue side. I'm just eyeballing this. Now I will apply a flat lace. This is an off-white lace. It's 7/8 inch wide, but you can make it any width you like. And I'm just going to zigzag it to the bottom. I'm not folding this up. I'm not pressing it. I'm not even going to pin it. I'm just going to carefully stitch it. I'm using a zigzag to make sure I catch it in every single stitch. And I'm just going to stitch that across the bottom. Now here's how it looks with the lace sewn on. Don't know if you can see that little zigzag. Now I'm going to match up the edges and sew up this back seam. Now I'll turn this right side out, and there's our dress. I love it. It turned out great. I'm glad that I decided to switch out that, I think it was a red square on the bottom for this white one. I like that. That looks great. Remember, going for a strong contrast between this fabric and the panel. So the dress is complete, and now we're going to work on the inside body. The face is a 25mm wooden bead. The hole goes all the way through. And the face is created with a technique that you can see in my Focus on Faces video. It's really fun and easy. Then I have 1/16 inch wide off-white satin ribbon, and then sort of a cream colored tulle, 6 inches wide. I'm going to pull off 2 lengths of tulle. This is the tulle that I got from Temu, which seems fine to me. I think these are about half a yard, which is plenty. And then I'm going to tie this off with the ribbon. I always cut the lengths very generously. You can always trim them later. And then I'll tie this off at the center fold. That's 2 lengths of 6 inch wide tulle. I tied it off with a square knot. And then I'm going to send these ribbons through the head bead from the bottom to the top. And slide the head bead onto the tulle like that. And kind of back it out. And then I'm going to add some hot glue right here to the back of the top. That's the top of the tulle. And then I'm going to pull this through so that the tulle is filling that hole. There's the top of the tulle right at the top of the head. And then I'm going to tie the ends into just an overhand knot. There we go. So there's the head and the body, and here's the dress. Now I'm going to gather up the top edge of the dress to fit around the neck. I have a double strand of off-white quilting thread. Actually, it's more white. I have a double strand of white quilting thread, and I like to use a thimble. I'm going to start gathering the top edge by securing my knot in the folded back seam allowance right there at the back center, like that. And then going through a single layer of fabric, I'm going to gather this up just with big sort of 1/4 inch stitches all the way around. And then a pro tip from Ruby is when I reach a seam, I like for the seam to be in the V. So the seam, I skip right over that seam so that when I pull it, oops, here we go. So that when I pull it, you can see that the gathers cause that seam to dip down, and that way it's less exposed. So I'll just continue in the same way all the way around. There's the second seam there. I'm about 1/4 inch down from the top edge. Now I'm going to insert the angel into the dress, centering the panel under her chin there, and pull those gathers tight right up under her chin. And then I've pulled it very tightly. Then I'm going to wrap it a few times and then stitch through back and forth a couple of times. You can go side to side or front to back, however you like. Just make sure that you're securing the top of the dress to the very top of the tulle. And also when you apply that glue, you want to make sure the glue is inside the bead. You don't want to be sewing through that hot glue. Okay, then I'm going to secure my thread in the back. There's a little much back here, so I'm going to trim the seam allowance a little bit without cutting any of my gathering threads. And then I'm going to trim this extra tulle. That looks good. Now let's have a look. Now for the collar, I will use about 15 inches of this flat white 7/8 inch wide lace. I'm just going to gather it up from one end to the other. Again, I'm using a double strand of quilting thread. It's this white Coats & Clark hand quilting. It's, I fold back the end of the lace like that and then secure my knot there and then just gather it up with a running stitch. Long stitches, about 1/4 inch long, all the way from one end to the other. There we go. Then I'm going to place this around her neck and join the ends in the back. That looks good, so I will secure this in the back. I'm not too worried about how the back looks because between the hair and the wings, it'll all be covered. This is a lot of layers to push the needle through, and so I like to use a thimble. I'm kind of debating about whether to use this baker's twine for a bow or something else, because I feel like it doesn't really stand out enough since the panel here is also red and white. I have this, which is red ribbon, but this is, I think this is 1/8 of an inch. Well, it's 3 millimeter. This might be a little strong. I'm not sure. I could just use one of my red bows. Maybe I'll do that. That'll just be easier. Cute. Okay, I'll wait till later to put that. But this is the La Petite's Dimensional Stickers, Paper Studio from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to add that later. So let's work on the hair. I have been using 2 different yarns in the hair lately, but this time I'm just going to use my loopy mohair. And I leave a long tail, hold it in my left hand, and then just wrap this about 8 times. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And then another long tail, wrap that all the way around, pick up the first piece and tie it off in the center. Nice and tight. So what we have is a figure 8 with 8 loops on each side. Now for the halo, I'm going to cut just about maybe 2 or 3 inches. 2.5 inches of this 20 gauge gold wire and kind of wrap it around my thimble to shape it into a U. Then I'll add glue to the ends here and then press it into the head on either side like this for the halo. There we go. There's how it looks on either side. That looks good. Now I think I'm good to add the bow now. That's going to be so cute. Just a little bit of hot glue. Now I've chosen this charm square for the wings. And I have a wing pattern that is just a circle. And I've cut it out from this lightweight fusible interfacing, which I will iron to the back. See, it just fits on there. There's barely any extra. It's a 4 3/4 inch circle. So I'm going to press that on and cut it out. Now I'm going to fold this circle in half and pin and stitch around the edge all the way. You don't need to leave an opening, so just stitch all the way around with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. Since my seam allowance is so small, I don't think I have to trim it, but I am going to trim the corners here and here. And then if your wing piece has a directional print, you want to make sure that you know which one is the front. I don't think it matters on this one. Maybe I'll use this one as the front. This side kind of cuts off that snowflake, and this has more of the snowflake on one side and nothing on the other side, and I think that's going to be too much of a contrast, so I'm going to use this side as the front. I'll fold this in half just to mark the center, and then with a disappearing marker, starting about 1/2 inch down, I'm going to make a little cross, a little plus sign, and then only going through one layer of fabric here. I'm going to snip along the cross, and this is just the opening for turning, like that. Then I'm going to turn through this little opening, and if it seems like you made the opening too small, just go ahead and make it bigger. I'm using a chopstick to make sure that I get this all the way out to the edges of these points here. And all the way out along the seam. And then I'm going to go and press this flat. Here's my finished wing. This is the back, this is the front. The opening goes in the front because you're going to glue it right here. So now I want to do a little bit of top stitch right along this curved edge. So I'll make about 1/8 of an inch. Well, actually, I think it's about 1/8 of an inch. Just, you know, I'm going to put my needle all the way over to the right as far as I can, and then go along the edge. And I'm using off-white thread, but you could also use red thread or some other color. It would be fine. Here's my wing piece with the top stitching, and now I'll apply some glue right here and then press the back of her head into the glue. I use a fairly generous amount of glue for this. I have trouble sometimes getting the wings centered, so I really do like to pay attention there. Here's how it looks. Adorable. And the mini charm square panel angel is complete. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you're enjoying my videos, please like, share, and subscribe.